has run a pretty disciplined campaign up until this point, and his debate performances, even dating back to the campaign, the primary campaign were pretty disciplined. President Trump, though, on the other hand, has rejected, as Dan has reported, the kind of formal navigate a tricky situation. He has had a couple of opportunities in the last week, a 60 Minutes interview at Town Hall, to articulate his plan for dealing with the virus and his plan for 4 more years. He has struggled to do that. Will that change tonight? I think is one of the biggest questions, because he can talk about Biden's son all he wants, but a lot of Americans are tuning in to find out how their lives are actually going to get back to them.
In fact, I would say that not only did he struggle in the 60 Minutes interview and the Town Hall
Is it
with
true they really
Sinclair,
would switch
but
up?
he actually gave opportunities to Joe Biden, and he said things. He told Eric Bolling of Sinclair, he's asked him, would you do anything differently? And Trump said, not much. And then he told us this call, 60 Minutes, that he hopes the Supreme Court overturns Obamacare, which is something that the administration has been saying, no, we don't want.
Right. Listen, this is a president who has no shortage of advice, of good political advice for a typical candidate, or even for people, or for somebody like Donald Trump, who is anything but typical. People who know him try to coax him into the right direction.
I ate my food,
and it has not worked over and over again for whatever reason. Before the last debate, every time he says something like going after Anthony Fauci, after the media, pick your area without the mouth. Distraction, as opposed to what he has been told.
Can't have the dookie without the
focus
poke.
on the economy.
Boldly.
One area where the poll shows he's
Got
not
the dookie and not control it.
Focus on what you were going to do.
Boldly.
Talk about some of the
Got the badushi and I'm
comments 4
told.
years ago, like redoing the trade deal, and he did it.
Suckle to Masha got boldly.
That the moderator,
If they don't start this motherfucking thing, they don't start this motherfucking thing. This motherfucking thing.
Fever dreams
That
of the
motherfucking
far-right swamps, which is what he seems to be focused on quite a bit. But there are 6 topics. In addition, the microphones will be muted during the initial questions. Each candidate will get 2 minutes to talk. The other
Bring me my
makeup
makeup bag that's in my purse.
Microphone will be muted. Donald Trump gets the first question. He speaks for 2 minutes, then it goes to Joe Biden. He'll speak for 2 minutes, and we'll see what happens. It's obviously a very, very high stakes night with everything on the line in this election. Well,
it certainly is, and only 12 days left in this election campaign. The final presidential debate of 2020, President Donald Trump, former Vice President Joe Biden, they're about to go head-to-head one more time.
You remember that one time my voice cracked and got it right?
On the rails,
Wait, I
and
saw
they're
this
facing
right.
truly enormous pressure right now with this election once again. Only 12 days from now. You're looking at live pictures coming in
Fucking
from
phone cut
Belmont
off.
University in Nashville, Tennessee.
Well, now you know he did.
Now you know he did.
Yeah, you took my line.
What's up, world? This
Good
is
evening from
Ra.
Belmont University in Nashville,
And
Tennessee.
she cutting
I'm
into
Kristen
my
Walker
damn.
of NBC
Go
News,
ahead, Kristen
and I
Walker.
welcome you to the final 2020 presidential debate between President
So this is
Donald
the
J.
brawl
Trump
for it
and
all.
former Vice President Joe
Right here.
Biden. Tonight's debate is
Right
sponsored
here.
by the Commission on Presidential
Oh my
Debates.
gosh.
It is conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Commission's health security advisor. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers,
What the hell is
or
wrong
other
with you?
interruptions, except right now, as we
Yeah,
welcome to
yeah,
the
I
stage
feel like
former Vice President Joe Biden
Yeah, I
and
need to
President
see
Donald
this
J. Trump.
I hope this motherfucker trip on a goddamn tack. Arrested me. They didn't even speak.
And I do want to say a very good evening to both of you. This debate will cover 6 major topics. At the beginning of each section, each candidate will have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
This ignorant
to answer the
motherfucker.
first question.
Here you go.
The debate commission will then turn on their microphone only when it is their turn to answer. and the commission will turn it off exactly when the 2 minutes have expired.
Biden, don't do
After
too much
that,
damn
both
smiling,
microphones
yeah.
will remain on, but on behalf of the voters, I'm going
Ain't
to
no
ask
smiling
you
in this
please
shit
one at
right
a
now.
time.
Like we
The
don't
goal is for
smile.
you to hear
We
each
don't
other
smile right
and for
now.
the American people to hear every
no
word
smiling.
of what you both have to say.
That's just
And
a
so with
space.
that, if you're ready,
Yeah, ain't no
let's start.
smiling.
And we will begin with the fight against the coronavirus. President Trump, the first question is for you. The country is heading into a dangerous new
Wait,
phase.
Trump,
More than
what we
40,000
gonna
Americans are in the hospital tonight with COVID, including record numbers here in Tennessee. And since the two of you last shared a stage, 16,000 Americans have died from COVID. So please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus crisis? 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
So, as you know, 2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. We closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease that came from China. It's a worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in
Lord,
Europe and many other places right now.
she asked a
If you
specific
notice,
question and it was the
mortality
first
rate
one. It's
is
like,
down 85%. The excess mortality rate is way down and much lower than almost any other country.
you
And
lying.
we're fighting it, and we're fighting
Like
it.
Biden's
There
like,
is a
bitch,
spike.
you
There was a
come
spike in
out
Florida, and it's now
lying.
gone.
Most people
There was
come
a
out
very big
swinging.
spike in
This
Texas.
motherfucker's
It's
coming
now
out
gone. There's a
lying.
very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone. And there are some spikes and surges in other places. They will soon be gone. We have a vaccine that's coming. It's ready. It's going to be announced within weeks.
How would
and
you
it's going to be
lead during the
delivered.
next
We have,
stage of the
Operation
coronavirus?
Warp
That's
Speed,
the
which
crisis.
is
That's
the
the
military is going to
question.
distribute the vaccine. I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital. I had it, and I got better. And I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure.
Has he answered the question
I was
yet?
in for a short period of time, and I got better
No.
very fast, or I wouldn't be here
Biden, like he
tonight.
just fell
And
asleep.
now they say I'm immune, whether it's 4 months or a lifetime. Nobody's been able to say that, but I'm immune. More and more people
This
are
bitch,
getting
he
better.
said
We
he's
have,
immune. We
a
are
problem that's a worldwide
2 minutes into
problem.
this, and
This
he
is a
said he
worldwide
already
problem.
said that he's
But
immune
I've
to the
been
damn disease.
congratulated by the heads of many countries
Are you
on what
fucking
we've been
kidding
able
they're
to do.
literally gonna cut
With
him off
the-
and like
if you
even
take
if
a
he's
look
on
at
his
what we've
last
done in
statement,
terms
like
of
not let him
goggles
finish anything.
and
No,
masks
I don't think they're gonna
and
do
Yeah,
that.
that's
gallons
gonna be
and
stupid.
everything else, and in particular ventilators. We're now making ventilators all over the world, thousands and thousands a month, distributing them.
He's
all over the
literally
world.
rambling
It will
on.
go away, and as I say, we're rounding the turn, we're rounding the corner. It's
What happens
going
if
away.
Trump?
Okay, former Vice President Biden, to you, how
It's a
would you
damn
lead the
shame if
country
you-
out of this
hold on.
crisis? You have 2 minutes
What
uninterrupted.
happens if Biden wins?
220,000 Americans dead. You hear nothing else I say tonight. Hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially. Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as president of the United States of America. We're in a situation where there are 1,000 deaths a day. 1,000 deaths a day. And there are over 70,000 new cases per day. Compared to what's going on in Europe, as the New England Medical Journal said, they're starting from a very low rate. We're starting from a very high rate. The expectation is we'll have another 200,000 Americans dead between now and the end of the year. If we just wore these masks, the president's own advisors have told him, we could save 100,000 lives. And we're in a circumstance where the president thus far still has no plan, no comprehensive plan. What I would do is make sure we have everyone encouraged to wear a mask all the time. I would make sure we move in the direction of rapid testing, investing in rapid testing. I would make sure that we set up national standards as to how to open up schools and open up businesses so they can be safe and give them the wherewithal, the financial resources to be able to do that. We're in a situation now where the New England Medical Journal, one of the most serious journals in the whole world, said for the first time ever that the way this president has responded to this crisis has been absolutely tragic. And so, folks, I will take care of this. I will end this. I will make sure we have a plan.
President Trump, I'd like to follow up with you in your comments. You talked about taking a therapeutic. I assume you're referencing Regeneron. You also said a vaccine will be coming within weeks?
Yes.
Is that a guarantee?
No, it's not a guarantee, but it will be by the end of the year, but I think it has a
Then
good
what the
chance
fuck are
that
you
two
saying it
companies,
for,
I
you
think within
bitch?
a matter of weeks, and it will be distributed very
Can
quickly.
you tell us which companies?
Johnson & Johnson is doing very well.
You lied,
Moderna
they
is doing
just-
very well.
Now, you
Pfizer is
know
doing
you-
very
they just
well.
came
We have
out and-
numerous others.
Lord
And we
have
also
mercy, this
have others that
motherfucker
we're
just,
working on very
they just
closely
came
with other
out
countries, in
today or
particular
yesterday
Europe.
said
Let me follow
Ain't none
up with you
coming
because
out.
this is new information.
They
You
need-
have said a vaccine is coming soon within weeks now. Your own officials say it could take well into 2021 at the earliest for enough
They
Americans
just said
to
this
get
yesterday.
vaccinated. And even then, they say the country will be wearing
Ooh, they
masks
know what to
and
do to get him
distancing
fired
into
up.
2022. Is your timeline realistic?
No, I think my timeline is going to be more accurate. I don't know that they're depending on the military.
This motherfucker's a damn-
We have our generals.
He's a
like
fucking
Simon
scientist.
Patrick, that's the head of
Yeah.
logistics, and this is a very easy distribution for him. He's ready to go as soon as we have the vaccine. And we expect to have 100 million vials. As soon as we have the vaccine, he's ready to go.
Vice President Biden, your reaction, and just 40% of Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine if it was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent. Have the scientists of the world see it, know it, look at it, go through all the processes. And by the way, this is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter last time. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about to go into a dark winter. And he has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people.
Bang came them guns,
Trump,
boy.
your reaction to say
Dark winter at all. We're opening up our country. We've learned and studied and understand the disease, which we didn't at the
I know
beginning.
Daddy called
When I
him.
closed
damn
and
it.
banned China
Still not
from
China.
coming in heavily infected, and then ultimately Europe. But China was in January.
China.
Months later, he was
China.
saying I was xenophobic.
Once
I did it
again,
too soon. He was
China.
saying, oh, I should have, moved quicker. But he didn't move quicker. He was months behind me, many months behind me.
He's not the fucking president, you bitch.
H1N1 swine flu, and it was a total
He keep bringing
disaster,
up
far
this
less
swine
lethal.
flu.
Guess how many people died
It
by
was a
that?
total
He said
disaster.
it's not near as much as
Nowhere near.
dying by the corona.
Nowhere near.
700,000 people would be dead right now, but it was a far less lethal
You
disease.
would have been dead.
Look, his own person who ran that for him.
Don't say that. Oh my
who,
God.
you know, was his chief of staff.
Legend.
It was catastrophic. It was horrible. We didn't know what we were doing. Now he comes up and he tells
Don't
us
say
how to
Y'all
do
wait
this.
for him.
Also, everything that he said
Yeah.
about the way, every single move that he said we should make, that's what we've done. We've done all of it. But he was way behind us.
So now
Vice
he's
President Biden, your response.
way
My
behind us.
response is he is xenophobic, but not because he shut down access from China. And he did it late after 40 countries had already done that. In addition to that, what he did, he made sure that we had 44 people that were in there in China trying to get to Wuhan to determine what exactly the source was. What did the president say in January? He said, no, he said, he's being transparent. The president of China is being transparent. We owe him a debt of gratitude. We have to thank him. And then what happened was we started talking about using the Defense Act to make sure we go out and get whatever is needed out there to protect people. And again, I go back to this. He had nothing. He did virtually nothing. And then he gets out of the hospital and he talks about don't worry. It's all going to be over soon. Come on. There's not another serious scientist in the world who thinks it's going to be over soon.
President Trump, your reaction?
Say over soon. I say we're learning to live with it. We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does. He has the ability to lock himself up. I don't know. He's obviously made a lot of money someplace, but he has this thing about living in a basement. People can't do that. By the way, I, as the president, couldn't do that. I'd love to put myself in the basement or in a beautiful room in the White House and go away for a year and a half until it disappears. I can't do that. And Kirsten, every meeting I had, and I meet a lot of families, including Gold Star families and military families. Every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I had to. It would be hard to have canceled everything.
Good evening.
How you doing?
And
Hey, Dad. I was glad that was you.
I learned a lot.
He lied. Oh God.
And now I recovered. 99.9%
Yeah.
of people recover. 99% of
Okay.
people recover. We have to recover. We can't close up our nation. We have to open our
Hello.
schools And we can't close up our nation, or you're not going to have a nation.
And of course, the CDC has said young people can get sick with COVID-19 and can pass it. Vice President Biden, I want to talk broadly about strategy, though. You
Can I
have
respond to that?
30 seconds, please, and then I have a question.
No, number one, he says that we're learning to live with it. People are learning to die with it. You folks home will have an empty chair at the kitchen table this morning. That man or wife going to bed tonight and reaching over to try to touch their out of habit where their wife or husband was is gone. Learning to live with it. Come on. We're dying with it because he's never said, he said it's dangerous. When's the last time? Is it really dangerous still? Are we dangerous? You tell the people it's dangerous now? What should they do about the danger? And you say, I take no responsibility.
Let me talk about your
Excuse
two.
me, I take full responsibility.
They about to mute him.
It's not my fault that he came here. It's China's fault. And you know what? It's not Joe's fault that he came here either. It's China's fault. They kept it from going into the rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it from coming out to the world, including Europe and ourselves.
Vice President Biden.
From COVID.
Fact is that when we knew it was coming, when it hit, what happened? What did the president say? He said, don't worry, it's going to go away. Be gone by Easter. Don't worry. The warm weather. Don't worry. Maybe inject bleach. He said he was kidding when he said that. A lot of people thought it was serious. A whole range of things the president said. Even today, he thinks we are in control. We're about to lose 200,000 more people.
President Trump.
Look, perhaps just to finish this, I was kidding on that, but just to finish this, when I closed, he said I shouldn't have closed. And that went on for months. What Nancy Pelosi said the same thing. She was dancing on the streets in Chinatown in San Francisco. But when I closed, he said,
He just lied.
this is a terrible
Biden
thing,
be
xenophobic. I think he called me racist even. And because I was closing it to China. Now he says I should have closed it earlier. It just, Joe, it doesn't work.
I didn't say either of those things.
You
I didn't say
certainly
sugarcoat
did.
or
You
anything,
certainly
and I did. I talked about his xenophobia in a different context. It wasn't about closing the border to Chinese coming to the United States.
All right, I want to talk about both of your different strategies to handle.
He thought I shouldn't have closed the border.
Well,
That's obvious.
do you want to respond to that quickly, Vice
But
President?
he's cutting off
Let's talk
everything.
about strategies for dealing with this. Mr. Vice President, you suggested you would support new shutdowns if scientists recommended it. What do you say to Americans who are fearful that the cost of shutdowns, the impact on the economy, the higher rates of hunger, depression, domestic and substance abuse outweighs the risk of exposure to the virus?
What I would say is I'm going to shut down the virus, not the country. It's his ineptitude that caused the country to have to shut down in large part. Why businesses have gone under, why schools are closed, why so many people have lost their living, and why they're concerned. Those other concerns are real. That's why he should have been, instead of in a sand trap at his golf course, he should have been negotiating with Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats and Republicans about what to do about the after passing for billions of dollars to make sure people had the capacity.
You haven't ruled out more shutdowns.
You had the audacity
Well,
to
no,
say
I'm not shutting down today, but there are, look, they need standards. The standard is if you have a reproduction rate in the community that's above a certain level, everybody says, slow up, more social distancing, do not open bars and do not open gymnasiums, do not open until you get this under control, under more control. But when you do open, give the people the capacity to be able to open and have the capacity to do it safely. For example, schools, they need a lot of money to open. They need to deal with ventilation systems. They need to deal with smaller classes, more teachers, more pods. And he's refused to support that money, or at least up to now.
Let's talk about schools. President Trump,
I think we have to respond, if I might.
please, and then I have a follow-up.
Thank
he's
you, and I
cutting
appreciate that.
her off.
Look, all he does is talk about shutdowns, but forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, you look at what's going on in California, you look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Democrats all, they're shut down so tight and they're dying. They're dying. And he supports all these people. All he talks about is shutdowns. No, we're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. And it's like, as an example, I have a young son. He also tested positive. By the time I spoke to the doctor the second time, he was fine. It just went away. Young people, I guess it's their immune system.
Let me follow up with you, President Trump. You've demanded schools open in person and insist they can do it safely. But just yesterday, Boston became the latest city to move its public school system entirely online after a coronavirus spike. What is your message to parents who worry that sending their children to school will endanger not only their kids, but also their teachers and families?
I want to open the schools. The transmittal rate to the teachers is very small.
The black
But I want
students
to
to
open the
die.
schools. We have to open our country. We're not going to have a country. You can't do this. We can't keep this country closed. This is a massive country with a massive economy. People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before. There's abuse, tremendous abuse. We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often, the cure cannot be worse than the problem itself. And that's what's happening. And he wants to close down, he'll close down the country if one person in our
If he have to.
bureaucracy says
Yeah,
we
bitch.
should close it down.
Vice President Biden, your
Simply
response.
not true. We ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We ought to be able to safely open, but when they need resources to open, you need to be able to, for example, if you're going to open a business, have social distancing within the business. You need to have, if you have a restaurant, you need to have plexiglass dividers so people cannot infect one another. You need to be in a position where you can take testing rapidly and know whether a person is in fact infected. You need to be able to trace. You need to be able to provide all the resources that are needed to do this. And that is not inconsistent with
Yesterday I said I
saying
was
that
good at CNN.
what we're going to make sure that we open safely. And by the way, all you teachers out there, not that many of you are going to die, so don't worry about it. So don't worry about it. Come on.
President Trump, let me follow up with you quickly.
By the way, I will say this, if you go and look at what's happened to New York, it's a ghost town. It's a ghost town. And when you talk about plexiglass, these are restaurants that are dying. These are businesses with no money. Putting up plexiglass is unbelievably expensive.
Well, if
And
you
it's
would have
not
put the
the
things,
answer.
did
I
the
mean,
things
you're
you
gonna
were
sit
supposed
there
to
and
do it
people
a while
wrapping
ago,
around with plastic.
shit wouldn't be like
These
this.
are businesses that are dying, Joe. You can't do that to people. You just can't. Take a look at New York and what's happened to my wonderful city for so many years. I loved it. It was vibrant. It's dying. Everyone's leaving New York.
Take a look at
Vice
what
President
New
Biden.
York has done in terms of turning the curve down in terms of the number of people dying. And I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and red states. They're all the United States. And
Yes.
look at the states that are having such a spike in the coronavirus. They're the red states. They're the states in the Midwest. They're the states in the upper Midwest. That's where the spike is occurring significantly. But they're all Americans. They're all Americans. And what we have to do is say, wear these masks, number one. Make sure we get the help that the businesses need that has money's already been passed to do that. It's been out there since the beginning of the summer and nothing's happened.
President, New York has lost more than 40,000 people, 11,000 people in nursing homes.
President Trump, what
When you
about,
say slag, take a look at what's happening in Pennsylvania, where they've had it closed. Take a look at what's happening with your friend in Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. It's been like a prison. Now it was just ruled unconstitutional. Take a look at North Carolina.
He
They're
couldn't
having
tell
spikes,
the truth
and they've been
if he
closed,
paid for
and
it.
they're getting killed financially. We can't let that happen, Joe. You can't let that happen. We have to open up. And we understand the disease. We have to protect our
Joe,
seniors.
all he
We have
got to
protect
simply
our
say
elderly.
is,
We
who's
have
the
to
president?
protect especially
Who
our
the fuck is the
seniors with
president?
heart problems and diabetes problems. And we will protect them. We have the best testing in the world by far. That's why we have so many cases.
let me follow up with you before we move on to our next section. President Trump, this week you called Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's best known infectious disease expert, quote, a disaster. You described him and other medical experts as, quote, idiots. If you're not listening to them, who are you listening to as you fight this?
I'm listening to all of them, including Anthony. I get along very well with Anthony, but he did say, don't wear masks. He did say, as you know, this is not going to be a problem. I think he's a Democrat, but that's okay. He said, this is not going to be a problem. We're not going to have a problem at all. When Joe says that, I said, Anthony Fauci said, and others, and many others, and I'm not knocking him a lot. Nobody knew. Look, nobody knew what this thing was. Nobody knew where it was coming from, what it was. We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks. Anthony also said, if you look back, exact words, here's his exact words. This is no problem. This is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He happens to be a good person.
Vice President Biden, your response quickly, and then we're going to move on to the next.
I gotta
section.
Our
sit down
response
for
is
this.
that think about what the president